And so that creates a pool of funds for opportunity space for industry to come in and propose to work with the national labs to advance technologies. So those technology transfer commercialization fund was a policy that was implemented with some minor impact that was useful in terms of inducing collaboration with industry. So that's an example of one.
Yeah. And within sort of the wider policy mix of things happening in energy, I guess, with carbon pricing and things coming through, do you think that there's a healthy policy mix that encourages innovation in the labs generally at the moment?
Well, I think it does. I mean, anytime where so a policy gets translated into a need to understand some fundamental science, and so let's say carbon dioxide being a very stable molecule, right? That's it's the product of combustion, so it's at an energy point that is very difficult to undo. So it results in certainly new catalysis, new understandings of chemistry, new ideas for products, product lines, chemistry lines, and so from that standpoint, that has generated some very good science, I think. In addition to the fossil space, where the continuing need to drive innovation and energy efficiency higher. So even if we look at the projected goals from the past of where fossil energy usage would be, in 2050, it's still expected that it will be probably 70%, at least the U.S. energy budget would be 70% dependent upon fossil. Right. So if we can improve the efficiencies and the design in that space, and candidly the recovery in that space, so that we can use it more efficiently, that's going to have high impact as well.
Yeah. Okay, and you sort of touched on it, sort of working with the private sector and bringing things through, I guess, to those later TRLs for commercialization. Do you mind telling me a little bit more at the moment about how a project works to getting to that stage?
Sure. So, so initially you're at the low TRL level, right? So you begin with a concept that's tested in the lab, and then eventually that has to be scaled up to some kind of prototype level. So up to TRL level 3, we can probably do that at sort of a laboratory scale or a pilot plant scale. Yeah. After that, it really does require some sort of commercialization pathway that would begin looking at a much larger scale reactor, a type of facility that can handle that type of logistics. And so we have partners that we work with often who have facilities, in addition to our own, dependent upon the need, like an oxy-combustion type unit operating at such high pressure and temperatures, that can handle those type of safety protocols. So can you hold on just a second, Anna?
Yeah.
I apologize. Is that okay to leave? Because we can drive around, Shauna. I'm sorry, Anna. I think at the transition where it goes from, let's say, TRL 5 to 7, maybe 8, then you're looking at very large, sort of beyond pilot, near commercial scale deployment. And usually those have to be at very industry scale type facilities. And so, usually you have a partner who's willing to do that at an existing facility and do this as sort of an add-on to one of their engineering lines.
Okay. And with these partners, are they sort of identified at, I guess, at the stage when you need these facilities, and I guess you put out a call potentially to take this technology forward? How does it work?
Yeah, so normally this is built up over time, many conversations with industry, many conversations within the science community, and sort of the need and where the capabilities exist. And so an opportunity or area of interest call might go out and then provide a proposal mechanism for these groups and industry to apply for support in that area. But generally, it's just like any other area, whether it be in academia. There are pockets of expertise that exist, and then they compete within those areas for the best project and funding.
Yeah. And do you think within the sort of innovation system at the moment there is enough support around those sort of later TRL levels to bring projects out of the lab to commercial scale?
I would say that it's a highly debated area right now. I think industry and partners would love to see more funding at the higher TRL levels, just because it will reduce that risk envelope for them, which is necessary many times to get the funding on their side to participate in the project. So, with any area, I'm always going to say we could use more funding.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah.
I mean, sort of, in tackling that, do you think it would be sort of preferential that government maybe create a particular organisation that could sort of fund these different projects, I guess like an ARPA-E at later stages, or would it be just sort of individual grant funding for projects? So it's quite a muddled question, I suppose. But do you think there's any particular mechanism that would sort of facilitate this in the best way?
Well, I don't know whether creating a new agency or organization could help drive that. It certainly could help organize it, but you disconnect it from sort of the other elements that are doing the lower TRL levels, and that induces a risk as well. So I would say probably better organization, but maybe not a new agency.
Sure. Okay. And just thinking about the different partner organisations, I guess many of these will be sort of larger, potentially incumbent organisations that have this equipment and engineering capacity. Or do you actually engage more with sort of smaller startup companies that are kind of taking these technologies and making them their main kind of focus, I guess?
It's really both, but I would have to say that in the context of a project, oftentimes it's well-known entities. So we wouldn't necessarily go to a startup to look at a higher TRL level opportunity.
Sure.
Unless it's already been proven at that scale.
Yeah, sorry. I guess I was thinking of a technology developer that's gone through the lab and then would continue to commercialise, if that makes sense. But as you say, I guess
we would normally through CRADA or a potential license opportunity, and so it would depend upon the mechanism.
Okay, great. Well, actually, Randy, I think that's everything I think I can pick your brain on for now. So that was much quicker than I anticipated. I mean, is there anything you'd add just in terms of sort of something that I've missed that might be useful in terms of my understanding of the US innovation system?
Well, I think, and I apologize, I was walking up a hill there, so I was a little a little bit more curt than normal there. I was
no, that's fine.
A little out of breath, so I apologize.
No worries.
So I suppose what I would add is that the U.S. system is highly opportunistic from the standpoint of how it's designed to be competitive, and I'm sure the system in Europe is similar in that context. We don't have a centralized technology commercialization innovation organization.
Yeah.
And so something that could improve that space is designated coordination through undersecretary level or secretary level individuals who could drive that across the different science and engineering space. Right. And so the reason I argue that it's probably not best to create a new agency is that a lot of the innovation early concepts are really drive those larger scale advancements at the higher TRL levels. And if you decouple that and they're quasi-independent, then the pipeline aspects of innovation could be disrupted. and it often becomes very confusing in U.S. federal space.